Hello, everybody. It's lecture 6, the social construction of identities. Why do we call ourselves and label ourselves? We, um, we invented language at one point, some estimate about 50,000 years ago. So I'm not sure how we communicated before that. Maybe we communicated like other animals, grunts, whistles, who knows. Uh, why do I call myself Peruvian? Why do I call myself Chicano? Why do why do you call yourself Mexican or Hispanic or Latino? Why do white people call themselves white people or Americans? So see, these are all labels that are not just words on a piece of paper or enunciations that come out of our mouths. They identify and they carry a weight. They carry baggage. And at the same time, they carry power or lack of power in the social political sense, including manifesting itself in the economic sense. So labels are relevant. They classify us and they tend to contribute towards a reality. Now, labels, especially when it comes to the formation of our own personal identities or our community identities, they have a process. When humans lived in smaller groups, tribal groups, it was more of an organic process because of the interaction that humans would have with their environment, particularly if they became materially dependent on their environment. So if you fished by the rivers, then you'd be a river people. If you hunted and picked berries up in the mountain, then you'd be a mountain people. That's an organic identity of the tribe. Eventually, as we grew in number and we interacted and exploited our environment and we became alienated from it, separated from it, we came up with more abstract forms of identifying ourselves based on ideology and based on metaphysics or abstract. So, abstract identities. The Jewish people, the God's chosen people, the the Aztec looking for the promised land, hence Mexica following the priestess Meshi to the promised land, hence named themselves after the person who led them in this vision of a promised land as examples. But then now we have other identities. This identity, more recent ones, they're called national identities, ethnic identities, based on sharing a common experience within a common territory, separated by boundaries, and those boundaries are usually agreements, but usually they're in tension anyways or contested, like the Mexican-American border, where there's a lot of tension, while in the Canadian-U.S. border, not so much. And these are like national social constructor identities. So if I'm born on this side of the line, then I'm automatically deemed American. If I'm born on the other side of the line, then I'm Mexican, and so on. Now, I gave you two articles. One was regarding the construction of white people. So white people at one point were tribal, were ethnic, and eventually were labeled a national identity. And so when they were over there in their homelands, then they grew up being socialized to label themselves as such: French, German, Irish, English, Czech, etc., Italian. But when they come here to the U.S., the United States, or anywhere in Latin America, then they receive other labels. All of a sudden, they get a blanket label: white people. They themselves might not label themselves white right away, but maybe their children will, or their grandchildren for sure. Hence, a process of assimilation. And the creation of white people has a lot to do with policies passed early on to keep people separated and granting them privileges. And hence the article on the casta system. The casta system is a system that's implemented widely, first in Spanish America. We have a casta system here too. It's just that it's several decades ago it was pretty rigid. It was separate but equal. So, and that not only pertained to African Americans but also to Chicanos, Mexicanos, brown people who lived here, or in Asians. So there was a caste system here. It's loosened up quite a bit now. It's not as rigid as it used to be, but there's still this disproportionalities and inequalities that linger and are impactful in these respective communities. So Jack Forbes also introduces you to the social construction of the mestizo as part of the evolution of the brown people's identities. They start as Mexica, Otomi, Maya, and then eventually become Indians. Like white people, now they're all Indians. And so their identities are beginning to diminish. I mean, they still exist, right? If you go to a Yucatan area, there's people that still speak Mayan. To the outsider, they're Indians, right? And if you want to be respectful, oh yeah, they're Mayans. And you go to Oaxaca, and there's like the Zapotec and the Mixtec. But the imposition, the European imposition on social construct into society, part of it was to diminish the role of ethnicity, to homogenize it. You're no longer a Mexica, Otomi, Tarahumara, Huichol, Huirrárica. You are now a Mexican, Mexicano, and better yet, if you're mestizo, because now you're mixed. You're the fusion of two cultures. And so Jack Forbes is trying to give us an idea that these are all labels that are utilized for socioeconomic, political reasons. And so when we label ourselves Hispanic, Latino, we're sort of participating in that game without understanding. It disconnects us historically. It creates a fragment of who we are, what a part of our heritage is. I mean, we have inherited several heritages, but there is a social, economic, political component behind it too. It's not just, oh yeah, well, my grandpa's from Spain. There is a consequence, a result, a reality experienced by the generations that come from the violence experienced. So the mestizo is ultimately utilized, or there's ultimately handed privileges to create a buffer between those who do not have, primarily native people, and those who do have the most. And the casta system uses it to pit each other, against one another, as they compete for the crumbs of the way the system has been set up. So I want to leave it at that. Homework assignment, there's two, either or both if you want. First one is you're going to send you 3 articles, and you're going to pick up the 2 to read, and then you're going to write about the articles. And also you're going to try to begin disconstructing why you label yourself what you label yourself, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, whatever. To try to put into question that. The other option is you're going to watch a 50-minute documentary about white people, about how white people view themselves in the United States. And then you're going to write a letter as a brown person to a white person. You're going to write a letter to them, explain to them a little bit of history and maybe about white privilege. Okay, bye-bye.